What's up, guys? My name's Logan.
And I'm Raylan.
This is the first episode of My Two Cents podcast. I'll start off by saying I'm 23 years old.
I'm 25. Sorry.
I work for a big corporate company and also do landscaping on the side. I'm an operations manager for the corporate company.
And I am currently a stay-at-home mom. Let's talk about that, okay? We met back in 2019. I was his trainer at a restaurant that we worked at.
And she was super hot.
We did not start dating until 2 years later, but that is for a different episode. We will not discuss all the trials that we went through during those 2 years. But yeah, we've been together for almost 2 years now, engaged for 1, and we currently have a 4-month-old daughter.
Beautiful 4-month-old daughter.
Her name is Harlow. She's actually one of the reasons why we started to have a podcast.
We want to reach young parents and give our insight and learn from other people as well.
Also, we also wanted to have a podcast because it's a male and female point of view on life.
I had the idea to start this podcast because sometimes we have arguments.
A lot of the times.
Nothing serious, but
no, they're pretty serious sometimes.
They can be. But it's just a better way for us to discuss things, get each other's point of view on everything, and learn from each other while also having a good time with it.
We also wanted to show people that there is a healthy way to communicate in relationships, and you can be different and not always agree, but that doesn't mean that you can't be together. As you watch this podcast, you'll see that me and Logan actually do not agree on many things in life.
A lot of things.
He's definitely more so for positive masculinity, and I'm more of a feminist, but not...
Luckily not the blue-haired type.
Yeah, just the pink-haired. More so a feminist that if you think all the way back, not currently where it's a little bit more crazy, I don't hate men. I mean, sometimes, but not the way you see on like Twitter.
She's for the betterment of women and not anti-men like today's modern feminism seems to be.
Right. So I am a stay-at-home mom, and I think that doesn't take away being like a strong woman. It was actually my choice to be a stay-at-home mom. And I actually think modern day feminism almost makes being a stay-at-home mom a bad thing. And we actually want to talk about that too later on in future episodes, like go more into detail about things like that.
I'm all for a nuclear household. I think the mother takes care of the children, raises them. The man provides. Obviously, the more providing, the better. You always want to be there emotionally, physically, mentally for both your children and your spouse. I think that's the correct way to go about family life.
So I don't actually 100% agree with that. That is currently our relationship just because of certain things that we've had to go through with our daughter and me needing to stay home with her. But do I think that women have to stay home and that's their only role? No. If you don't want to have a child and you want to only work, there's nothing wrong with that. I actually wanted to be like that. I did not want to have children until I was 30. But at one point, I didn't want to have children at all. And that's okay. I changed my mind. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind. And that's just one of the things that we don't always agree with when it comes to roles in the family.
I make decent money. I'm not a big baller by any means. I can provide for my family and have some extra left over to do fun things on the side, such as this. I think that the more high value you become, the more money you make, the easier it is for your spouse to accept the staying at home role as a woman, because you can do more things for her. If I could provide my fiance with endless things, then I feel like she would be a lot more happy with the situation. But I'm not currently in the position to do that. I'm working my way to get there.
Being a parent takes a lot of sacrifice, and especially in the first year, you think that you're making more sacrifices than your partner is. Like, I think sometimes that I'm making more sacrifices because I went from being a person who worked two jobs, who had all this money, who could do whatever she wanted and buy whatever she wanted, to a person that is completely depending on their spouse who doesn't make enough money to like support all the stuff that I used to do. I also had to sacrifice like just being out of the house. Like, people don't realize when you're a stay-at-home mom, the only person that you're really communicating with is your baby who doesn't talk. And you actually don't realize how much that affects you until you're in it and you're very isolated, and it doesn't help on top of postpartum depression. And then I'm sure Logan has things where he thinks he's sacrificing more, and I'm not going to discredit him because I'm not walking in his shoes. I don't know.
I don't think that I'm sacrificing more or you're sacrificing more. I think we're both sacrificing different things, and it uh, just brings different hardships onto us by what we are sacrificing. I sacrifice the time I get to see my daughter. I work 12 to 13 hours a day at least. Um, Sacrificing my wallet to take care of them, I don't really see that as a technical sacrifice. I'm just supporting my family. But some people could definitely see it that way. I do have to give huge props to Raylan, though. She does do a wonderful job with our daughter. Couldn't be more proud of her as a mother and a woman in general. Um, I don't think it's necessarily an easy thing. Never claimed for it to be. I know I couldn't stay at home all day with our daughter as much as I would love to. I know I wouldn't be able to handle it. But yeah, I think that there's just different roles for a mother and a father, and I think there's sacrifices on both ends.
And if you're not a stay-at-home mom, there's also shout out to the moms who work and take care of the children. That is extremely hard. I'm tired after watching Harlow all day. I can't imagine the moms who work all day long and then have to come home to their kids. Not gonna discredit the dad, but even if both parents work, I still feel like the mom does more just because she is the mother. The moms do more with the child. Like, that's just how it is.
It's a biological
Yeah.
thing.
That is one thing that we'll agree with. The mom does more, whether you hate that, love that, that's just the way it is. It comes more natural to you. I know how scared Logan was to hold Harlow for the first time and feed her. Even if she was normal, she was 4 pounds when she was born. Even if she was a normal weight, he probably still would have been scared.
I definitely would have. I don't have a lot of experience with children. I have nieces, but as far as my own child, I was definitely, especially like a brand new newborn at the hospital, I was definitely shaking in my boots at the time.
And I wasn't. As soon as she came out, it was like I just knew, which was surprising to me because Logan can even tell you the very beginning of our relationship, I made it very clear that if he ever wanted to have children, they weren't going to be my kids. I did not want to have kids at all. I had no really experience with kids besides my nephews. But even them, I didn't really help raise them in any kind of way. Didn't really change their diapers. Didn't feed them. I just hung out with them like, the cool drunk aunt would do. So it was like a complete 180 for me to go from being a person who did not want kids to a person who was just so natural at it. Even with Harlow being difficult because she was small and premature. So
I will say, as a father, my mindset has completely changed about life. I used to be the guy who always wanted to go out and have a good time, chase the next high, um, blow my money on random stuff, you know. Ever since then, ever since having a child, well, really finding out that Raylan was pregnant, um, my priorities for life completely changed. Trying to better myself every day, work harder for my family, continue to provide, and just do anything I can to grow mentally, physically, financially.
I also wanted to shout out Logan. If you do know him personally, you would know that who he used to be was definitely not boyfriend material, fiance material, husband material, or baby daddy material.
I was jail material.
Yeah, he was your drug dealer, basically. uh, so, and we chose to have a child. She was not a mistake. She was not an accident. I got off the pill knowing that he was all these things because I could already see like all the changes in him. It was a very serious conversation because I didn't want to have kids, and then I changed my mind. And to change my mind with someone who was still in his early 20s, who had this background. I knew it wasn't a very easy decision to make, but I could already see, like, from the first year of our relationship, how much his priorities have changed just by being with me. So I knew that having a daughter would not have set him back. So shout out to him for that.
Thank you. I definitely have tried my hardest to completely change my life around and do what's right for my family and myself as well. I think that's very important. I think I come before anyone, not in a negative sense, but more so like I have to take care of myself before I can take care of anyone else. And if I can't even take care of myself, then what am I worth to anyone else, especially my child and my fiance? Um, with that being said, there's lots of pros and cons to being a young father. I'm glad that by the time I'm 40 years old, my child will be 18 and hopefully ready to move out the house.
Unless, you know, you're you or one of your siblings, because that definitely did not happen.
That is very true.
Or me or my siblings, because that definitely didn't happen either. Well, actually, I moved out at 17. I never moved back in, but I still relied on my mom.
I moved out at 18 and I definitely moved back in a few times.
Yeah.
There are also some cons to being a young father. Not that I would change it for the world, but you know, I mean, I wouldn't say that I was in the best financial situation to have a child. I'm not struggling, but I'm also not a big baller over here. Um, the time that you spend with them, you could be spending like everyone else, you know, traveling, doing this and that. I don't really think it's a negative thing to take away the going out to the bar every night or drinking, partying, and all that. I don't really think it's a negative to take that stuff away, but definitely the world exploration and everything, which I plan on doing when she's older anyway. So I don't really see that as a huge negative. Um, every con that I really have, I've kind of justified with myself and made it a pro. So I really don't have too many.
Granted, if you don't want to have kids, we're not trying to change your mind with saying like the cons not having a child, you know, pros, whatever. Um, I'm 25 now, so I wouldn't say that I had a child young compared to him, who was 22 whenever he found out that I was pregnant. I felt like I had lived my early 20s, and most of that was definitely like getting drunk and going out to the bars and the clubs, and it's like I got that out of my system. I really am not missing that at all. If you want to do that, that's fine. But I'm just saying personally, like me and him had our fun, and I don't mind staying at home with my daughter and with my fiance and just having a night in. Uh,
Or every night in.
yeah, it is basically every night, and then maybe we'll have like a date night and be home by 9 and in bed by 10. Um, but I think this might be like a controversial opinion, but I think once you get to that point in your relationship, like you choose that over going out. Like you're so happy that you don't really need anything else or anybody else. I know people are always like, oh, those couples that are always together. And I'm like, well, if you're that happy, then it's not really a negative thing. Like your partner should be your best friend and the person that you want to hang out with the most. So I don't really have any cons to being like a young mom just because I don't really consider myself a young mom. I think I'm pretty average age.
I mean, I don't think that there's any cons to being a young father either, because what I was doing with my life before I had a kid was, smoking weed every day, getting drunk every day, blowing money every day, going to the bar a lot of days. And changing that really has not had a negative impact on me at all. If anything, it's changed my life way much for the better. Um, and now that I look back on it, I kind of regret spending all that time doing that anyway, even though that's kind of how you're expected to live whenever you're in your early 20s. I don't really think that that's the best path to go down. Um, I don't think that a whole lot of positive comes from it. Good times, good memories occasionally. Bad times, bad memories as well. I've got lots of both. And I don't regret it, but I definitely think that I could have spent my time doing something better and just working on myself more as I am now. And if I had started earlier, then I'd be in a further and better place than I am now.
Which we'll go deeper in future episodes about our past and things that we went through that shaped us into who we are today. Me and Logan both separately as individuals have had a lot of hard times that made us grow up quickly. But I wouldn't change anything that I did, just like he said, just because it makes you who you are. But we will have episodes that talk about, drugs and, going to jail. I was married before I got a divorce. We can talk about things like that, how divorces skyrocketed in recent decades, why that happens, things like that.
With that being said, I don't ever want to have a divorce under my belt. So, um, so my opinion on the ideal relationship would be, everlasting love and being there emotionally for each other, physically, um, just doing anything that you can for your partner to help them grow and become a better person, as well as keep them extremely happy, take care of them emotionally.
Since I was married and was divorced, I do have a really big insight into why relationships fail. And it's not always, so simple. When you start dating someone, let's say me and Logan started dating whenever he was 21. Who he was at 21 is not who he will be whenever he is 25, which is my age. There is so much growing that happens even in like those small age differences, and you don't even realize it. And in relationships, it is so easy to kind of grow apart as you're growing up and not accepting those changes. So it's so easy to be like, oh, I'm going to be there for this person, but they might grow up to be someone that they weren't before, and you start to fall out of love with them. Things like that are normal. I mean, relationships are hard. No one thinks that they're easy. Sometimes I think that the divorce rate was lower back in the day because it was hard to get a divorce, and it's pretty easy now.
I don't necessarily disagree with every divorce. I think if it can be avoided, it should be. I know that there are different circumstances within everybody's relationship, and sometimes that's the best option to go with. I don't have any negative feelings towards that. That's just not what I want for my life. I want to always let my daughter come home to a two-parent household, even whenever she's 40 years old. I want her to look up to us, look for look for a man that's like me, you know, which is why I continue to make myself better, try to make myself better every day. I know I'm not perfect by any means. There's tons of things I can continue to work on. I've changed a lot and tried to fix myself the best I can so far, but the only right thing to do is continue working on that and changing and becoming a better man every single day, 1% better every day. That's all it takes. Um, I want to be somebody that my daughter as well as my future children can look up to. Um, I want to be very financially successful, physically successful, mentally successful. Um, I want to have a private jet, a yacht, a mansion, be able to provide my kids with the entire world if that's what they want, you know. Um, so that's what I'm working towards. That's what I'm striving for.
I think me and Logan have like the same goal. I don't really have all these goals about, a yacht and a jet because I don't need all those things. I'm actually pretty happy where I'm at. I'm pretty low maintenance when it comes to relationships and what I need and what I want. I just kind of want my husband to come home to me every day and everyone to be happy and fed, and not stressed out. But me and Logan have a lot of conversations, which is how we started this podcast. We argue a bunch, but I think it's important um, to have these conversations. I think a lot of people do get divorced and break up because they're not having these conversations in their relationship. Like, what do you want in the future? What is it going to take to get there? Your thoughts on children, your thoughts on the nuclear household. You don't realize how some of these things can actually break apart your relationship because you didn't talk about that in the beginning. Everyone's in this honeymoon stage and you could be there for a while, and you don't have these conversations with each other. We and Logan had them fairly early in our relationship, and I think that's what led us to having like a very fast relationship. We got engaged within a year, got pregnant within a year.
A year after the engagement, not a year of being together. Actually,
No,
it was a year of being together.
we've only been together for 2
That
years.
is true.
Actually, we got engaged, and then a week later, I found out that I was pregnant. So, for all the people out there who thought we got engaged because I was pregnant, that is not true. We got engaged first.
She was pregnant whenever we got engaged, but we
just
did not
didn't
know.
I did tell him, because he was the one who really wanted to have kids. I did tell him that if we were to have kids, I wanted to be married. I actually changed my mind on that. Now I really don't care so much about being married. I do want to have the same last name as my child, but the actual marriage, I don't really care about. We can talk about that in later episodes, like why marriage is important. Neither of us really need it. Logan's pretty anti-government.
I think marriage under a religious stance is a very positive thing, but at the same time, I don't really care to involve the government in my relationship and let them put their fingers in everything, you know, like they love to do.
Right. So actually, me and Logan think that we're already married in our head. We got married at the beach with ring pops and
Before we were engaged.
yeah, and that to us was us being married. The only reason why we would get married is so I could have the same last name as Harlow, and also tax purposes. Obviously.
As much as the government loves to take money, they'll give it to you too.
Yeah, so right now it's smart not to be married. It's just whatever financially helps you out, cheapest system in a sense. It doesn't really matter whether we're married or not, in the government standpoint. That this episode was mainly just to introduce ourselves, our relationship, give you guys some insight on our mindsets, who we are as people.
What's y'all's opinion on the ideal relationship dynamic? How do you run your relationship? Are you happy with it? Could things improve? We would love to hear y'all's feedback and responses.
For future episodes, you can also comment anything that you would like us to talk about. We already have a couple topics that we are thinking about discussing, one of them being Barbie. I don't know if y'all have watched it, but it's pretty controversial, I think, between men and women, and that's whenever you'll really see me and Logan get into debating and how different we are. I really like the movie. I'm so grateful that he decided to go to a very feminist movie with me because he's not for that.
It was all right. Ryan Gosling was kind of cool.
I actually think that he did, really good too. I liked him as Ken, but that is probably going to be one of our next episodes just because it's such a hot topic right now. Are there any other hot topics that you guys would like us to discuss?
We're also thinking about doing some true crime episodes, maybe some unsolved mysteries as well. We want to get some guests on here, maybe another couple. We want to do a senior night type of thing where we have an older couple, 65 plus, as well, get an insight on their relationship, how they grew up, how long they've been together, just different things like that. I think it would be good for the younger generation to learn from the older generation, especially whenever it comes to relationships.
We also want to discuss things about individuals such as mental health. I know mental health is a big thing, and it's not discussed a lot for men. So we would actually like to talk about that too.
But yeah, if y'all have any other insight or input, what y'all want to see, what you want to hear from us, we'd be glad to hear your opinions. If you could just leave a like, subscribe, comment, whatever you want, that would be great. And stay tuned for our next episode.
Oh, and if you also want to be a guest star and share your 2 cents about a topic, comment or DM us and we can work something out. Thanks, guys.
Thank y'all.